No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening from the flatlands of Manitoba to the bluegrass of Kentucky, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show alongside my good friend Joe Pascucci. I'm your host, Drew Mindell, here to discuss the first game back from the Christmas holiday for the Winnipeg Jets. And unfortunately for Jets fans, it is not a game that will go down on the winning side of the ledger as they drop a 2-1 decision to the Chicago Blackhawks, a game that they by and large controlled for the most part, but Peter Mrazek was the difference in tonight's contest as the Jets just couldn't get a second goal past him, and on the back of his performance, the Blackhawks are able to come away with the victory in overtime. Joe, good to see you. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you and yours. How is everything going in your world this evening?
Everything is going great. Hoping for a Jets win, but we'll take the point.
Yeah,
it helps. Yeah. So with Dallas losing and Colorado losing in overtime, so they don't lose any ground and they do make up ground on Dallas.
And that's just it. You're not going to win every game, and I don't think you need to be a hockey analyst to understand that concept. But getting the points, not losing in regulation time, especially to a team at the bottom of the standings like the Chicago Blackhawks are. And Joe and I were talking about it before we went live with the post-game show here, saying that what I'm fortunate for is that we don't have to watch the Blackhawks on a night in, night out basis. Because let me tell you, these post-game shows would be a lot more difficult if it was the Chicago Blackhawks post-game show. Can you imagine that team, Joe? Before we get into the nuts and bolts of that team, can you imagine that team if they had won the second overall draft pick and they didn't get Connor Bedard? Take Connor Bedard off of that team and replace him with another guy who's going to be a great player, but not Bedard-esque. And that team is just one of the worst hockey teams in recent memory. They're bereft of talent is really what they are. They got a bunch of guys who are thankful to have NHL jobs and are happy to ride the coattails of Connor Bedard to whatever victories they can get.
And they're doing it very well, and at least they won't be in contention for the first overall pick, or they should.
They're tied for dead last, I think, or maybe with tonight's win, they may have leapfrogged San Jose for second, for 31st in the NHL or something along those lines.
Bottom line, though, Jets shouldn't be losing to the Blackhawks.
No,
and they played really well to start the game, didn't they, Drew? I mean, that was a great opening period for them.
Well, that's exactly what you were, and you never know how a team is going to start. To your point, Joe, you never know how a team is going to start, early, in that first game after a 3 or a 4 day break. You never, after the Christmas break or after the All-Star break, you never know how that first 10, 15, 20 minutes is going to go. And for the Winnipeg Jets, it went exactly as they would have wanted, except for the fact that they weren't able to get anything past Peter Mrazek, because for that first 15 minutes, they kept the Blackhawks from registering a shot on goal.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it deeper when we get into the Betway game recap here in a couple minutes. But that was basically the same Jets team that we saw on Friday against Boston and on Wednesday against the Detroit Red Wings, where they came out and they smothered their opponent. And that was really, the story of the game is by and large, they smothered the Blackhawks and they were the better of the two teams. And, how many posts did the Jets have? I counted 5 by my count.
Yep, yeah, 5 posts tonight.
So, I mean, and if some of those posts end up in the back of the net, I got to move my hands down as I'm blocking the camera here. If some of those posts, get into the back of the net, it's not even a close game. So, by and large, the Jets want to get 2 points, and they want to get 2 points against a team like the Blackhawks. Because those should be 2 points, but at the same time, they're not going to be, I think, ripping out their hair over tonight's performance.
No, just they're ripping out their hair. The coach will be over the power play once again. Mm-hmm. I think 0 for 3 on the first 3 with no shots, and I think they got 2 on that last power play late in the game. And what I was wondering was, why didn't Rick call a timeout? Prior to that last power play, get his top unit maybe rested, or even midway through that power play, call a timeout and let's get this thing over right here. And of course, the Jets didn't do anything. Well, they finally got 2 shots, one of them by Morrissey there on that last power play. But the power play again is a story for the Winnipeg Jets, and that's not good.
No, exactly right. I mean, how many games now has it been? It's been multiple games this year that Rick Bowness has said special teams have cost us the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was the power play, and sometimes it was the penalty kill, and sometimes it was both.
Yeah, exactly.
Tonight it wasn't both. Tonight the PK did its job, but the power play. I mean, you have to find a way to score a power play goal. In tonight's contest.
Yeah.
Or at the very least be threatening on the power play, because really they weren't threatening at all until that last power play where they had a little bit of net front presence and got finally shot on goal. But that just can't continue no matter how many tweaks they make. It just still doesn't seem to be working whatsoever for the team.
And there was a one on the third, I think, Jets power play where Scheifele had the puck on the wing, right? And he's got a screen in front, and I think it was Velarde was in front, and he wouldn't shoot it.
Right,
he wouldn't shoot it. So if they right now, it seems that the setup is they've got too many passers. They got guys who want to pass the puck and not shoot the puck. Put Scheifele in the middle of the ice in the high slot area like he used to be, like 2 seasons ago, and scored a lot of goals that way. Put him there, make him a shooter and not a passer.
Well, that's just it. I think right now they're looking for the prettiest play, and I think it's a little bit, in their heads. I think they're trapped in their own minds about how to make the power play effective, because they know it hasn't been good enough, and we're not breaking any news here when we say that. But it just seems like nobody wants to sort of take the bull by the horns there and just sort of say, okay, this is how the power play has to be. I find that there's still too much on the perimeter, especially when there's point shots, and they don't take very many point shots at all on the power play. But even so, I find the net front presence is to the side as opposed to being right in front and taking away the goalie's eyes. And in this league, in the NHL, if a goalie can see the puck, for the most part, they're going to save it.
They should.
I mean, they should. There's exceptions, and then we saw an exception really on that
in the overtime
winner.
Exception.
Yeah. But I mean, for the most, so you got to take away their eyes. You got to get bodies in front, and for whatever reason, it's still along the side, and there's not that presence where it needs to be. And it seems like a simple solution, a simple fix, but for whatever reason, the Jets still haven't really implemented it, and they're still, I think, now it's getting to be the psychological impact of it all about when that ends up really getting in between your ears and becomes that kind of an issue as opposed to a performance related issue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the second power play unit, which had scored twice in that game against Boston with Niederreiter, I mean, they had an off night too. I think that they moved the puck better and faster tonight, but they didn't produce any shots either. So it was just a failure tonight with the power play again, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, and I'm sure that'll be the post-game chatter coming from Jets head coach Rick Bowness, and we'll bring you his comments as best we can throughout the course of this post-game show as we sit here just a bit before midnight Eastern time. Both Joe and I are in the Eastern time zone, so we're staying up late for everybody, everyone that's joining us tonight on the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mendel, Joe Pascucci with you, talking about the Jets' 2-1 overtime defeat to the Chicago Blackhawks. I believe, though, before we get into the game, 23 games now that the Jets have gone without allowing more than 3 goals, which I believe, and don't quote me on this, folks, but I believe that sets an NHL record. I think they were tied with the Tampa Bay Lightning at 22 straight, but with tonight's 2-1 defeat, I think that makes it 23 in a row, and I think that's an NHL record. I know that an NHL record was set earlier tonight. Do you see Chris Letang, the ageless wonder? Yeah.
Yes.
Chris Letang.
6 assists in the second period.
I think it was 6 assists in the game and 5 assists in the second period. But maybe you're right. I could be wrong on that.
I think he got all his points in the one period.
Did he get them all in the second period? Whatever it was, the first time in NHL history a defenseman has had that many assists in one period. So
Right.
congratulations to Chris Letang on that accomplishment in what must have been a one. I didn't even see the final score there.
I think it was 7-0. Yeah,
That
I'm
was
looking
against
at it now.
the Islanders. Is that who they played?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so the Islanders were still on Christmas break, and the Penguins were certainly, feeling that they wanted to take a bite out of their opponent tonight. The Blackhawks end up taking a bite out of the Winnipeg Jets tonight,
Oh, yeah.
winning 2-1 in overtime. Why don't we get into it, Joe? Let's get into the Betway game recap. We do it here on the Illegal Curve post-game show after each and every Winnipeg Jets game.
The Betway game recap.
Betway game recap brought to you our friends at Betway, the most trusted voice in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. If you're looking to make a bet, perhaps you should do so with our friends at Betway. For more information, check them out online. And of course, that Betway would want me to say, as I do each and every time I intro them, to please play responsibly. As we talked about, it was sort of a weird start to the game. 15 seconds into the game, Joe, it looked like that Peter Mrazek was trying to pull a Tommy Salo, if you want to go back to the Olympics there, as just a innocent dump in by Nino Niederreiter somehow evades Mrazek and almost gets the Jets on the board 15 seconds into the game. That's the first post of 5. Maybe that's an omen for how tonight's game is going to go, given the Jets' inability to score either fluky goals or pretty goals in the course of the 60 minutes plus tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the way the Jets played in the first 14 minutes and I think 52 seconds. That was before Chicago got their first shot.
Right.
It was a coach's dream, right? I mean, they dominated the play. Chicago didn't have a shot. The defense was active. Morrissey, Pionk, Nate Schmidt, they were all joining in on the rush. Sometimes they would lead the rush. It was a perfect start for the Winnipeg Jets. Maybe not in the faceoff circle, but they controlled most of that period, until that first shot, because 65 seconds later, Chicago has the lead.
Yeah, well, that's just, that's the problem. And you sort of felt it happening. You sort of felt it coming, didn't you?
Well, we've seen it before with the Jets in that Carolina game where they're being dominated, yet they get the goal.
Exactly right. And so that's what happens is that the Jets, despite dominating the entirety of the first period and keeping Chicago, never mind off the scoreboard, off the shots on goal board, it ends up being the Blackhawks who open the scoring. But before we get into that, Joe, you mentioned it when we were talking off air. What's the stat that you had? The Jets record Winnipeg-based teams after Christmas now?
Okay, so Winnipeg NHL teams as with this game in the first game back after the Christmas break, 10 wins, 14 losses, and 2 shootout or overtime losses.
Okay, so 10, 14, and 2.
10, 14, and 2. And most of the wins have come in the 2.0 era.
I was going to say, that record isn't so bad when you consider some of the lean years, let's say, in the 1.0 era. That the record there, not terrible. About
4-12 in the 1.0 era.
So basically, they didn't like playing after Christmas in the 1.0 era, but they like it a little bit more in the 2.0 era.
Yeah,
okay, there
definitely.
you go. But they'll be back in action. Of course, they'll head home. The Jets will. They have the skills competition. I think that's is that tomorrow night? What's tonight? I'm so confused being away. Tonight's Wednesday, so the skills competition is either Thursday or Friday. I'm not sure which day it is. And then they have the home and home with the Minnesota Wild on Saturday and Sunday. So busy days upcoming to wrap up 2024 here for the Winnipeg Jets. But, tonight is where we'll keep our focus as we get going here with the Betway game recap on the Illegal Curve post-game show. And so Connor Bedard opens the scoring at the 15:57 mark of the first period. It's his 14th of the year. And the interesting stat of that, and which I jotted down, is that I was watching the Blackhawks broadcast tonight. Being where I am, that was the broadcast I was able to get. 12 of Connor Bedard's 14, now 15 goals. So 12 out of his 15 goals have come in the first period. So that's really where he's done the majority of his damage. And actually, only, I think now 4 of his goals have been on home ice. So he's been much more productive away from the United Center than on home ice for the Chicago Blackhawks. But he gets it really after, 3 or 4 chances hacking and whacking away in front of Connor Hellebuyck. And I don't care who it is, Connor Bedard or the lesser known Bedard. If you give an NHL player that many chances in front of your goaltender, something good is going to happen for that player. And it did, putting the Blackhawks on the board.
Yeah, that goal started when Perfetti was unable to get the puck out over the blue line. It was blocked by Connor Murphy, who then fed it to Bedard, and he took the first shot and that got blocked. He took the second shot, that got blocked, and then Nemestikov and Perfetti again weren't able to deny him on the third attempt at a shot, the one that went in. So unfortunately, that a Jet mistake at the blue line led to the Bedard goal and the Blackhawks with the 1-0 lead.
That's just it. Exactly right. And this wasn't I didn't think the Jets, it's sort of weird. There were some flashes for the Winnipeg Jets, and certainly how they started the game is how you wanted them to play. But I thought as the game went on, they maybe got a little progressively they were not as good as they were at the start of the game as the game went on. And I thought that really top to bottom, this wasn't the best Jets but wasn't the best Jets performance that we've seen as of late. Scheifele, Ehlers, and Velarde, I thought, were relatively insignificant in tonight's game. They weren't as noticeable in tonight's game as they were in some of the other games, and really a lot of disjointed play, not just by both teams. I thought, a lot of sticks getting into passing lanes, which is, I guess, a testament to the defenders. But it wasn't what I would describe as a smooth game, which is sort of what happens when you play a game against a team like Chicago. They're not really going, again, with the exception of Bedard. And I thought Philip Kurashev was a nice player for them tonight as well. But really, they don't have enough talent that they can go out there and make it a skill game. They have to make it sort of an ugly, muck it up kind of game just by nature of the lack of talent that they have on the ice. Yeah,
and the Jets sometimes are unwilling to muck it up, right? Because Rick Bowness is always talking about got to get those greasy goals, and tonight, and I know it makes it we're sounding like we're really down on the Jets. They didn't play that bad, but it was a game that they could have won. I'm trying not to be too negative, but they did play well for the most part. But you're right, they were a little off tonight. They just a little off. I mean, Nino Niederreiter, I thought had a really strong game tonight, and in that first period, he sets up Mason Appleton, for just a tap-in goal, and the puck hits Appleton's stick and goes off into the corner. And, and unfortunately that happens a lot with Mason Appleton, right? It just seems that he gets set up and he just can't finish, which is unfortunate. I like Mason Appleton, but he doesn't seem to be a finisher. And, that line could use a finisher on the wing there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think but in the role that he's being asked to play for the Winnipeg Jets, with Lowry and with Niederreiter, he's fit into that role very nicely, and that's an effective role for him, because it's clear at this stage of his career he's just not going to be. He doesn't have the goal scoring touch. He doesn't have the soft hands that are necessary.
But that line is playing so well, and Nino and Adam are creating scoring opportunities. Right. They need another player on there who can finish.
Well, and so you wonder if they ever consider breaking up that trio to find a finisher there, because of how much zone time they are and how significant they're controlling the play. And if I had to choose a finisher that's currently on the roster, you wonder if Morgan Barron, because he gets the Jets on the board here, if he's the guy who maybe bumps up, and because he seems to have a little bit of that sort of nose for the net and be able to get the puck in behind the opposing goaltender. And that's what he did at the 3:47 mark of that second period, after the Jets again hit the iron. Vlad Nemesnikov catches iron on a breakaway early in the second period, and you're wondering, oh gosh, is this going to be one of those games for the Winnipeg Jets? But Morgan Barron does get one past Peter Mrazek, and ironically, it's really a bit of a weak goal compared to all the better saves that Mrazek made in the course of the game. This one's a bit of a weak one. It's his sixth, Barron's sixth, from Axel Jonsson-Fjällby and Dominic Toninato, who was in the game because David Gustafsson was a game time decision after suffering an injury against Boston, on Friday. And Barron, nice goal. Beats Mrazek 5-hole. Good things happen when you put the puck on net, but not the it certainly didn't look like it was going to be a grade A opportunity when the play was unfolding.
No, that was a play that started in the Jets end when Nate Schmidt took he broke up the play or the rush by the Blackhawks, Lucas Reichel in the defensive zone, and that started the Jets the other way in their transition game. And I think Toninato got it over to Axel Jonsson-Fjällby. He made a nice cross ice pass to Morgan Barron, and Toninato did a nice job of staying on side, dragging that leg. And as you said, it was 5-hole goal, weak shot. It wasn't his best shot. It almost looked like he fanned on it a little bit. And it beats Mrazek, who had, I thought it back late in the first period, he made his two best saves were the poke check on Perfetti and the two shots by Iafallo in the dying seconds, right? And then early in the third, you've got this goal beating you, and you figure, okay, well, maybe this will finally, open the floodgates for the Jets, and more goals will follow. Unfortunately, they didn't.
Unfortunately, they didn't, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I thought that pass from Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, and he's really impressed me since he's come into the lineup. He's playing, I think, some of his best hockey that we've seen, is including contributing on the scoreboard. He hits Barron in stride with this pass, so Barron doesn't have to, skip a beat or anything along those lines. And the number of passes that were in stride in tonight's game were not that many. Sort of speaking to it, how it was a bit of a grinder tonight. But this one, Barron catches in stride, in flight, and he's able to beat Mrazek to make it 1-1 early in the second period. And it's really from there on into the overtime, there weren't many great chances, I would say. I'm just trying to think. I mean, what did I jot down here? And maybe you jotted some other ones down as well, Joe. But 10-minute mark of the second period, Mrazek made two saves off Gabe Vilardi in tight, and those were sort of what I would describe as Vilardi's best chances in the course of tonight's game.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to go to the posts, right? The two times they had the post, Toninato and Nemesnikov in the third period. DeMello had a great opportunity, right down the slot. He has a clear shot. Unfortunately, Dylan's not known for it, for his shot, and he misses the net. And that's kind of tough because it was finally set up for them. To maybe take that go-ahead goal. But
you're exactly
the net.
Right.
What can he do?
Yeah, there was he missed that. I think Neil Pionk had an opportunity where he came down from the blue line. That might have been in the first period, and he missed the net. What I have, there was the big save. I mentioned Philip Kurashev. He had a partial breakaway that Connor Hellebuck made a nice save on. That was in the second period. But again, I mean, for Connor Hellebuck, this was another low event game. I mean, I know he's going to rack it up. It's going to rack up as a loss, in the stats column for him, but very much another low event game for Connor Hellebuck. I mean, how many 25 shots is what he faced. And of those 25, 12 came 13 came in the third period in overtime. So you're talking about 12 shots on goal against in the first 40 minutes of the game. He's going to get bored back there. 12 shots on goal used to be half a period for him.
Well, Rick did promise him prior to last season that they were going to make his life easier, and they have this year. But he's keeping himself in the game mentally. Obviously, I mean, he's playing the puck a lot better, though he scares me every time he comes out of the net. I never want to see him do that, even though this year it's been less scary than in seasons past. But yeah, I mean, he's he's playing well, even with the fewer shots against. I know he had, we all know he had, didn't have his best stuff at the start of the season, but he's on the top of his game now. Would have been nice if he could have grabbed that overtime winner. But I think it might have also gone off Morrissey's stick a little bit. Might have changed
slight deflection. I mean, look, Connor Bedard is known in the he's going to be a prolific goal scorer, and he already is on his way to being a prolific goal scorer. But it's his release and his shot that is what is so special. I mean, among the special parts of his game, the release and the shot, and you got to see that on the third goal. I want to highlight a comment here as we're chatting here on the Illegal Curve post game show. Drew Mandel, Joe Pascucci with you. It is now after midnight in the Eastern time zone. That's where both Joe and I are tonight. We hope everything is going well with you wherever you're joining us, be it in Winnipeg or anywhere around the world. We hope you had a wonderful Christmas and a wonderful time with your family, or however you spent the last few days. This is one that I want to highlight. Patrick comment, thank the collective bargaining agreement for not allowing the Jets to fly into Chicago the night before. This is a weird one. It doesn't make any sense to me that you have this rule in place where, the Christmas break is in existence, all the way through Boxing Day, but yet you have games scheduled for the 27th. It seems like you should either, you shouldn't have both. You can, if you want to keep that rule in effect through the Boxing Day, and this isn't why the Jets lost, people. Don't get me wrong for a second. I just think that it's sort of an odd aspect. It would work the same after the All-Star break as well. If there can't be team related activities until after Boxing Day, don't have games on the 27th. Use that 27th as a practice day and a travel day, and then start back up on the 28th. To me, it's just an odd symptom of the CBA.
Yeah, it would make it fairer for teams, certainly here out in the Western Conference, right? Like in Pittsburgh and the Islanders, that's a short 45-minute trip. So that's not
easy.
So in Ottawa today with Toronto, that's another short trip. This was a longer one. That's why they usually play Minnesota, because the flight's 45 minutes, right?
Yeah,
from takeoff to landing. So it's a little strange. I was wondering why the Jets didn't fly out at 12:01 this morning or yesterday morning, since we're past midnight here in the East.
Yeah, that's maybe next year they'll reconsider it. Anyways, I find it just to be, they have these rules, and it's like, well, okay. Anyways, the rules are just odd sometimes. And
next year the Jets will be at home.
Yeah, well, maybe
I think they alternate it.
Is it? Okay, well, there you go. So
I hope
that would make sense if that's the case. But in any event, it's not the reason why the Jets lost, and it doesn't really make the big difference. It's just one of those weird things that doesn't logically make sense when you really think about it. But the number of things that the NHL doesn't logically make sense about, it could fill an entire book. That's
and for me, it's I don't look at these shootout, overtime or shootout losses as losses. I think they're ties. They get a point. They're a ties. I don't think this doesn't go like you said earlier. It's a loss on Hellebuck's record. It's not really a loss. It goes down as a tie for him.
Right. So there's the OT column. You're right about that. But and you're right.
I know we would. I know, and everybody does this, right? Everybody calls it a loss, but I think that I know it's depressing for the team that they've lost. They didn't get the second point.
Right.
But they shouldn't get too down on themselves tonight, and we shouldn't dump on teams that lose in overtime or in a shootout as much as sometimes happens around the NHL.
Well, it's such a, it's not a real version of NHL hockey. It's a gimmick. I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum. You're right. You can't get too upset about what happens in overtime, because it's a completely different form of the game. And it's played in a completely different style. So you're right. I mean, I think, what does this mean for the Jets? They're now 10-1-2 in the month of December, if I'm not mistaken. It could be a game off on that. 10-1-2, and if you look at the 3 games that they don't get, it's sort of funny. You look at the 3 games where they don't collect the full 2 points on, the one loss against the San Jose Sharks, and you have one overtime defeat to the Montreal Canadiens, and one overtime defeat to the Chicago Blackhawks. So I mean, strange things happen in the course of an 82 game season. And this would be one of those strange things, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like sometimes that the old 1.0 Jets and some of the 2.0 play down to the level of the opposition.
Yeah.
But tonight they started off so well. They were, but as the game went along, you're right that Chicago slowly started taking over, and then, at least the Jets got it to overtime. I thought in that
Wow.
final minute,
Sure. You and me both.
what were they doing? Or what was Pionk and I think doing? Because I think Morrissey was content to just rag the puck for those final 50 seconds.
Right.
And then Pionk came on, and like all of a sudden, they're taking chances. Like, don't.
Not the time to take chances. Take your
No.
1 point, go happily in the night, and then play for the bonus point. You're absolutely right. I mean, things got a little bit haywire there, but throughout the whole third period, I thought the Jets were maybe a little bit loose, and as similar to the game against San Jose. Again, that's why I think it's difficult to maintain your structure against some of these really bad teams. Let's call them what they are. The San Jose's and the Chicago's are really bad teams. I find that they play such an unstructured style that all teams, not specifically the Jets, and I think the Jets did a pretty good job of trying to maintain their structure throughout the course of the 60 minutes, but you do end up losing it at a point in time just because it's hard to sort of keep your thoroughbreds in the barn when you're playing against that kind of team, because you want to be able to just skate over them, but that often can lead to some troubles and can lead to some mistakes. And I sort of felt like there was another shoe that was going to drop for the Jets throughout the course of tonight's game. Fortunately, it didn't, and they get the 1 point, but you wonder how many more minutes if that game had gone, if they would have ended up getting bit by something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, very much so. And I think, and sometimes, I mean, they held to their structure very well, but maybe you sense from the more gifted players a sense of frustration. They're more willing to take chances, because they want to get that goal. Players were trying to get that game-winning goal when you don't need to take a chance. Stay with the plan. Right.
Yes,
And
exactly.
because you were getting chances, you just weren't burying them,
Right.
as they had numerous opportunities tonight to score, but just somehow it happens some games. This is hockey.
Well,
Right? Some games the puck just does not go in.
And you're right about that. And it's funny you talk about getting frustrated and everything else. And again, I was listening to the Blackhawks broadcast tonight, or I was watching the broadcast Blackhawks, and Kaylee Chelios, Chris's daughter, was the color analyst, and she does a really nice job. She's been a guest on the IC Hockey Show before, and she was doing color. I guess Darren Pang, who's usually their color broadcaster, was maybe doing a national game tonight, so she was filling in, and she was talking throughout the broadcast to how she could sort of sense the Jets were getting more and more frustrated as the game was going on, because it was so one-sided. They were so controlling the pace of play and the flow of the game, that even though they weren't able to get that second goal past Peter Mrazek, she said that she was commenting on the broadcast that their frustration was growing, and she could sort of sense that. And maybe that's sort of what leads to some of that more propensity to take some risks when it's not necessary. But there was a comment up on the screen, if you're Pionk, you have to know what the situation is. When there's a minute to go, just get the game into overtime, take your 1 point. That's not the time to start doubling down on sixes when you're facing a dealer with a face card.
Yeah. It was unnecessary, and it was just mind-boggling. Why are you doing this? Because you played so well this entire game. Why are you taking chances now? Right.
Taking
chances. I got us
to
overtime, though, right?
It did get you to overtime. When the whistle blew, and each team had earned that 1 point, and you knew that you were off to overtime, and it certainly wasn't an uneventful overtime. Both teams, there was some chaos going back both ways. I mean, Chicago had a 3-on-1 after two Jets players ran into each other and seemed to be tangled up behind Peter Mrazek. I don't know. I'm trying to remember who
I think it was Niederreiter and Morrissey.
That's what I was going to say, is Niederreiter and Morrissey, and leaving Chicago with a 3-on-1 opportunity. And I thought the game was going to be over. And somehow after that 3-on-1 opportunity, they came away with no shots on Connor Hellebuck. Maybe says a lot about the Blackhawks themselves. They managed to blow a 3-on-1 opportunity pretty badly there.
Yeah.
And then right back up the other end of the ice, Josh Morrissey, who just looked like he was completely out of gas. He gets a breakaway as a result because he's the last guy back trying to get back into the play. And then the Blackhawks screw up the 3-on-1. And then Morrissey gets an opportunity to end it for the Jets. And he's unable to beat Mrazek as well at that point in time.
Yeah, and I thought we've seen Morrissey score in overtime so many times before. I figured, okay, this is where the game ends.
Yeah,
but it didn't.
It did not end in that instance. Instead, it ended with Connor Bedard then going back down the length of the ice, end-to-end action, as you would hope to see when there's only 3 skaters apiece on the ice. And Bedard 1-on-2. It doesn't seem like it should be necessarily a high-risk situation. And I see a lot of people saying that Scheifele was coasting back there. I mean, Scheifele in that position when you're 1-on-2, yes, it would be great if he came back a little bit harder, but that's not on Mark Scheifele. This is this is a save that Connor Hellebuyck probably wants back. I thought at first it was through a screen. I thought he used Morrissey. Connor Bedard used Morrissey as a screen, but that wasn't the case. Wonder if it tipped off of Morrissey's stick a little bit. But you thought it tipped off.
I thought it just nicked his stick a little bit.
Yeah, whatever it was, it manages to beat Connor Hellebuyck glove side, and Chicago goes away with a 2-1 victory in tonight's game. In fact, we should make that 2-1 goal, the Connor Bedard, his second goal of the game. That should be our Seagram shot of the game.
The Seagram shot of the game.
Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. If you are still having a beverage or two, maybe you're still off between the Christmas Day and New Year's, we highly recommend that you choose one of the great Seagram's products, as long as you do so responsibly. That's our requirement here. Responsible imbibing is the motto of Illegal Curve. It's nice to have a slogan. That would be ours: responsible imbibing, whether that imbibing be alcohol or gambling or whatever other vices you might enjoy. Do it responsibly. That's all we ever ask of everyone. That seems reasonable, right, Joe?
I think so. So I have a trivia question, or not, maybe not a question, but so with this goal tonight, right?
Yes.
So Connor Bedard and Mario Lemieux,
okay,
their first regular season overtime goals were against the Winnipeg Jets.
Really? There you go.
There you go.
I mean, okay. This was Bedard's first overtime winner. That I can understand. Do you have any backstory on the Lemieux one? Do you have any specific recollection?
Well, it's the first year that they brought back overtime. So I think that was 1983-84.
Okay.
So and I think it was one of the first overtime games the Jets played, and Mario Lemieux scored the winning goal in overtime. So that was his first regular season overtime goal, which now Connor Bedard and Mario Lemieux have something in common besides being great hockey players.
Did that happen in Winnipeg, or did that happen
in Winnipeg? Yes.
Well, you know what's so rare about that? Why it's the fact that Lemieux played in Winnipeg so many games that later in his career,
later in his career, he played a lot at the beginning of his career, but by the end, he couldn't be bothered to come to Winnipeg.
No, I remember vividly. I remember a game. I remember it vividly, and you might even remember this one, where it was Pittsburgh and the Jets. Pittsburgh won, but it was a very close game. The Jets played a great game, and I think they got goalied largely in the game. And I remember Lemieux didn't come to Winnipeg for the game, so the crowd booed him when he was announced as a scratch. And then also in this game, this was a weird one where there was an injured player for the Penguins. So the trainer jumps onto the ice to tend to the injured player, and then the trainer slipped and smashed his head against the ice. I'm trying to remember what year this was.
You have a much better memory than I do.
Well,
lost a few gray cells, I think.
Yeah, clearly I've been imbibing more responsibly, Joe. But the reason why I bring it up is because I remember it vividly. I was a kid. I was still at that game, so it must have been. I'm going to assume this is 94, maybe somewhere around there. But I just saw it come up on Instagram again. For some reason, it was like on one of those Instagrams, like weird hockey memories or something. And,
wow.
And because I remember the trainer was, there was legitimate concern because he wiped out. He went, ass over tea kettle, pardon the expression, and slammed his head on the back, slammed the back of his head on the ice. It was I remember it being a bit of a serious situation. He's fine, and I think
fine.
he got up. Yeah. He got up under his own power. But if anyone remembers that game, Stu, I'm just going to say it might have been Stu. It's a 1-0 game sounds familiar. So if somebody wants to look it up and maybe find that, then you can throw it in the comments and we'll talk about that after the break. How about that? So the Jets 2-1, they lose to the Chicago Blackhawks tonight in Chicago. The Jets fall to 10-1-2 in the month of December, with 2 games still to go, both against the Minnesota Wild, to wrap up the 2024 season. When we come back on the Illegal Curve post-game show, more on tonight's game. We'll talk about this weekend's games against Minnesota and whatever else we come up with. It's after midnight on the East Coast. Drew Mandel, Joe Pascucci with you. It's now a Thursday morning. Stay with us. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Your coworkers love you because you always make them laugh. You're the life of the party with stories that have them rolling on the floor. Or maybe you're just the quiet one in the corner with the one-liners that just slay. Do you have what it takes to become Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job? Try your luck. Hit the stage at Rumors Comedy Club, and you could be walking away with $1,000 cash. Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job. Presented by Rumors. For all the details, head to rumorscomedyclub.com.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal, starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
The game can change just like that. Accidents happen when you aren't protected. So now what? Getting to your injury quickly can make all the difference. Help prevent them from being game changers with Linden Market Dental Center. Bonding, crowns, bridges, and dental implants. State-of-the-art treatments are available to help you get back in the game. To learn more, visit lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boston Pizza harnessed Fanalytics to test if the game is better at home or at Boston Pizza. The results are irrefutable. Catch the game at Boston Pizza, powered by Fanalytics.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Joe Pascucci with you Thursday morning in the Eastern time zone. That's where Joe and I are. I hope everyone's doing well back home in Winnipeg or wherever you may be joining us from, talking about tonight's Winnipeg Jets defeat at the hands of the Chicago Blackhawks. 2-1. The Jets lose in overtime. They drop to 10-1-2 in the month of December. Couple programming notes for you. Saturday morning, the Illegal Curve hockey show. We took last week off, that 1-week hiatus. Our family said they wanted to spend 1 week with us and 1 week only. So we're back to normal. Saturday morning, 9 a.m., the Illegal Curve hockey show back on our YouTube channel. And then, of course, that'll mean at 3:45 Central Time on Saturday and Sunday. New Year's on the 30th and the 31st, the home and home with the Minnesota Wild. Back-to-back Illegal Curve hockey show, Illegal Curve post-game show, matinee editions. So join us on Saturday and Sunday for that. Joe, want to read this this courtesy of our friend Murat Atesh of The Athletic. Gabe Vilardi has 7 goals in December, but did not play in overtime. Cole Perfetti has 10 goals on the year, but played 3 minutes and 10 seconds in the third period. only 3 minutes and 10 seconds, and none in overtime. This is Murat's opinion. I'll get your comment on it.
Mhm.
The A plot of Winnipeg's loss for Murat is in the power play and the number of time they hit the posts. There's a strong B plot in the need to let talent play. I guess your thoughts on some of the time on ice decision making by Rick Bowness and the Jets coaching staff tonight.
Maybe not too much of an issue with Perfetti's time. I did wonder why Velarde wasn't starting overtime with Mark Scheifele. That did kind of catch me by surprise. And I was going to, when we were talking about the overtime, I was going to mention, did Velarde even get on the ice in the overtime?
He did not.
So that's a good point by Murat. And Cole Perfetti,
that's what Rick Bowness has been doing.
I think, he's got to shoot more to me. He just passes way too much. And he's a great passer, but he's got to shoot. And, especially when he's out there on the power play. But, I guess those are good points by Murat. I mean, we can, second guess Rick, Coach Bowness on that tonight, I think.
If we don't second guess, what the hell are we doing here?
Well, he did. Like I said, I wanted on that last power play late in the third period, wanted him to call a timeout.
Right. There you
Get
go.
it organized. This
Yeah,
is your chance to win the game. What are you saving your timeout for?
Well,
Chicago scores and then you have to figure out a way to get back in the game? No, you call your timeout then.
Yeah, coaches.
Okay, there's my rant for the
There you go. I like it.
Night.
I like it. Bring this is what happens after midnight. We get the fired up version of Joe Pascucci.
Yes, it's illegal curve after hours.
Yeah. Usually when we do illegal curve after hours, there's a lot more cursing involved. So at least you managed to keep it. You've managed to keep it family friendly, at the least. Let's you look into doing what we do on each and every show. The Tough Duck hardest hitting comment as we get close to wrapping it up tonight on the Illegal Curve post game show.
The Tough Duck hardest hitting comment.
Big thanks to our friends at Tough Duck for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. We're going to give the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment to Reign, Reign. Posts, good opportunities, tough luck for the Jets. The Jets could have also played a lot more organized and energized, however. But when you have a generational talent like 98, of course, being Connor Bedard, it is hard to stop. Pretty good summation of tonight's contest by Reign there. So, Reign, congratulations. You are our Tough Duck hardest hitting comment winner for tonight's post-game show. Send me an email with your mailing address, drew@illegalcurve.com, or you can slide into my DMs on Twitter/X @ICDrew. Send me that mailing address, and our friends at Tough Duck will send you out a toque in honor of your victory in tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment contest. We do that on each and every post-game show, as you well know there, Mr. Pascucci.
I do. I'm still waiting for my toque.
Well, we will make sure we get you a toque undoubtedly as well.
I got the beer.
You got the beer. We sent you the important stuff. We sent you the beer. I mean, the question is there still some beer left, or are we completely? Do we need to send additional beer?
I imbibe responsibly.
There you go. You've been listening as well. Very good. I like it there. That's important stuff. There you go, Joe. We do appreciate you joining us each and every opportunity that you get to jump on with us. And when I texted you yesterday, I said, Joe, I understand if it's too late. I can understand that if you didn't want to jump on it, but I appreciate you saying that, you'll do it. And your analysis and your insight is always appreciated when you join us here on the post-game show.
It's fun that you guys keep thinking of me. I consider myself one of the Black Aces now. I'm always practicing. I'm ready to be put into the lineup.
Well, look, we're worried about having to pass you through to waivers to sneak you down to the farm team every now and then, because somebody else is gonna scoop you up, and we can't have that happen. And then we're really in trouble at that point in time. So we're gonna keep you. You might be in the press box for a few games, but don't worry, we're gonna keep you traveling with the NHL club and everything else along those lines.
Awesome, enjoy it. I love it.
There you go. Thank you to everyone who joined us tonight for the Illegal Curve post-game show. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We do this after each and every Winnipeg Jets game, which means we'll do it again this coming Saturday afternoon, but that'll be after the Illegal Curve hockey show. So that'll be Saturday morning, the Illegal Curve hockey show. So Saturday, Sunday, a very busy time ahead to wrap up the 2023 season. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm already wrapping up 2024, wrapping up 2023, not 2024. Big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post-game show, the Saturday show, and the website a possibility. That's our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club. If you're looking for something to do, maybe on New Year's Eve, or maybe you're trying to escape from the family this week, Rumors is running shows starting Thursday night, and they do have 2 shows on New Year's Eve. Get your tickets, rumorscomedyclub.com. Our friends at Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, of course, Betway, they're the title sponsor of the post-game show. Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's. Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, and of course, Joe mentioned Illegal Curve beer. That is available at Farmery Brewing. Number 2 Donald Street is their retail location. Hop on in there, get some Illegal Curve beer for the weekend's games, and to, of course, ring in the new year with. Tell them that Illegal Curve sent you. It's a delicious beer indeed. Support all these fine businesses that I named because of their continued support of Illegal Curve hockey. Any final thoughts to you, Mr. Pascucci?
I'm just wondering how many fights Ryan Hartman's going to have to step up to answer the bell this week.
Well, you know, that's the first time that the teams have met each other, of course, since Hartman with that illegal, unsuspecting interference on Nikolai Ehlers that cost Ehlers the vast majority of the playoff series against the Golden Knights. So good point made by you. That'll certainly be, I think, somebody's going to remind the players in the Jets dressing room about that. And the Minnesota Wild have not been very good this year. And though they've had a lot of success against the Jets as of late, the Jets will be looking to settle some scores both on the ice and maybe with some punches to the head of Ryan Hartman. But we'll find out if that takes place this coming Saturday as well. But very good point. I hadn't thought about that subplot just yet.
I always believe in getting even.
Well,
as long as you're up by 3 or 4 goals, then go for it.
Exactly. If you're getting even, then go ahead and get yourself one and take a piece out of them. And there might be some money up on the bulletin board in the dressing room. Wouldn't surprise me if that occurred, to maybe send him a reminder, especially this new tight knit Jets team. They'll I'm sure use that as some motivation right ahead of this weekend's games.
I agree.
Joe, thank you so much for this. Everyone, thank you for joining us. This has been the Illegal Curve post-game show. For Joe Pascucci, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, until Saturday at 9 a.m. We wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.